Hello out there, Caniac Nation. Thanks for joining us today at your lunchtime for a little live at lunch here, where we are going to talk about the breaking news from yesterday with the Martin Necas contract. So, hope everybody's having a good Tuesday. Hope your work day is going good. If that's what you're doing, I'm taking a break from my work day here, off the clock. So, if anybody's watching from work, totally off the clock. To just come out and talk about this. I wanted to do this yesterday after the news dropped, but the timing and what was going on at work and then into my evening didn't really get a chance to. So um, came to do it today. AB unfortunately can't join us today. Everybody knows AB is a college student and he's in finals, so he's studying away where he should be. So that's where he's at. So I'm just going to jump on here, go through this, no more than 20-30 minutes, discuss my thoughts on the Necas contract, and then get out of here and get back to our day. So first things first, we are brought to you by BetterHelp and DraftKings as a member of THPN. That's the Hockey Podcast Network. We are also promotional partners with SeatGeek. Sign up for an account with SeatGeek.com and use our promo code Caniac Sessions. That's one word, no space between Caniac and Sessions. Get $20 off your first ticket purchase, whatever that is. Doesn't have to be hockey. It can be a concert. It can be comedy. It can be football, whatever. Use that promo code and get $20 off. It helps us. It helps you. And it helps SeatGeek. All right. Clinton. What's up, Clinton? Thanks for coming in. Not sure I've seen you before. Maybe you've listened to our audio version, but nonetheless, glad you're here. Casey, what's up, buddy? He says been at the DMV since 8:30. Thanks for taking some of the misery away. Hey, good luck there at that DMV. And if you're at the one where I think you're at, over that way, that one's rough. So yeah, let's get right into it. Martin Necas has finally put an end to all the speculation that has been surrounding his future, his status, since really the season ended, right? We remember he wasn't there for exit interviews, took off right at the end of the Ranger series and went to go play for the Czech national team, which is fine. That's great. But immediately rumors started swirling, especially with the emergence of that Czech media piece that talked about his dad being unhappy with, or that Marty basically was unhappy with his role in the team. He wanted to play center. He wanted to play top minutes, wanted to play the power play, all that good stuff. We've discussed that over and over. But this puts an end to all that, at least for the time being, right? But if you'd have asked me 45 days ago whether I thought, Necas was going to be on this roster opening night, there's just no way that I would have believed that. I mean, it would have been crazy, to be honest. But here we are, and he's going to be, right? So, there was a lot of teams, right? With all the teams that were interested, the reports out there were, half of the NHL has inquired about Martin Necas and whether or not they could execute a transaction for him, right? There were so many out there, rumors everywhere, every insider, every major news outlet talking about Martin Necas being a trade piece. There were deals in place that we've heard of. There were other players out there in the NHL with teams that were unhappy with their situation that made sense to come to Carolina in a trade for Martin Necas. And none of that ever really materialized. We've heard the rumors about there was a deal in place with Columbus for the 4th overall pick in the draft that never happened because Necas indicated that he would not sign with Columbus, right? We heard the similar rumors to Buffalo. There's rumors surrounding Winnipeg that there was a deal in place for McGroarty. I don't remember who exactly it was. I tweeted out there like 10 minutes ago, but a pick and another player that, for whatever reason that didn't happen. My assumption is that Necas didn't want to sign in Winnipeg. So, it never really did happen, or maybe the return wasn't enough for Tulsky and company to pull the trigger on that deal. Nonetheless, it didn't happen, right? So if that's true, and Necas turned down 3 different teams as far as signing with them for a contract, you can tell that Necas still cares about winning, right? That is important to him. There's something to be said about having a chance to win, right? A lot of issues can be covered up if you're winning. That's just the way it is. So at the end of the day, at the end of the offseason, Marty Necas is staying in Carolina on a 2-year, $13 million contract that breaks it down to $6.5 million average annual value over the next 2 years. You can see the contract right there, courtesy of Puckpedia. This contract basically takes him through the remaining years of his restricted free agency status. So the other end of this contract, when this is over, he will be an unrestricted free agent, and he will be able to go and sign wherever he so chooses, whether that's Carolina or one of the other 31 teams across the NHL. That is up to him and his agent. Now, we'll get more into that here in just a minute, but the annual value, the $6.5 million, is pretty much in line with what I thought it would be. And if you watched our last session that we put out, was it Friday night, I believe, that $6.5 million is just a little bit lower than what we projected. We predicted a 6.75 for the value, a little bit lower than that. So I think it's good for both sides. I think it's good for the team. Yes, it's 2 years. We were hoping it would be long-term, but this doesn't mean that Necas won't sign here long-term. Just means he's not signing here long-term for now. I think that he could end up staying here long-term still. As long as he does his part and as long as the team does their part. I think this is kind of a 2-year tryout on both parties, right? Necas can show his consistency in his game. He can show that, his 71-point season from 2 years ago where he led the team in points wasn't a fluke, that he can still score at that pace, and that he can still play that role on this team. And it's, it allows the team to try out for him on their part, make a commitment to him to make him a consistent major role on this team, commit to him, and both sides can get along. But the team can give him his opportunity, but he's got to grab that opportunity and run with it. If he doesn't make the best of that, if his production falls off, if he becomes the Marty Necas of 3 seasons ago, where everybody was ready to ship him off to Arizona, then obviously he's not going to be able to play that role that he wants to play. But I think he's going to get the chance to do it. I don't know if it'll be at center. I don't believe he's a center. I don't think the team believes he's a center. I've been saying all along that I think Marty Necas needs to own the wing. He needs to be the best right wing player he can be, which is a pretty darn good one in my opinion. So I think the team needs to give him the top minutes, the first power play time. He can kill some penalties. He's a good enough skater to kill penalties. And I think he's going to get that opportunity. And if he runs with it, there's no reason that this relationship can't work out long-term. If it doesn't work out long-term, the team can still move him, right? This contract is very movable. $6.5 million for 1 year. I mean, if something happens and this relationship isn't working out, or next offseason gets here and he wants a trade or whatever, they can trade him. No problem moving this contract. But if it does work out, great. Keep him. Keep him all the way through the end of the second year, even if he doesn't resign. I think next season, not this upcoming season, but the next season is when our true window opens again. And you could treat him as an own rental, right? Some people don't like that term, right? They don't like the term of the contract. And they don't like the term of own rental. But, the fact that this contract does walk him up to UFA status, that's what he would be if he doesn't decide to sign here long-term beyond the 2 years. But I don't really, I don't really have a problem with that. Some people do. Some people think that if you have a high-end asset like Martin Necas, if he's you just don't let him walk in free agency. You either trade him and recoup some assets, whatever that may be, kind of like we did with Jake Gensel, where we sent him his rights to Tampa for a third-round pick. But, at the end of the day, like, teams that are in contention, legitimate contenders for a championship, you don't send top players away at the trade deadline. You just don't. And, the fact that Brady Shea, Brett Pesce, Steph Nason, Tavo Teravainen, all these guys walked in free agency this past year, you don't trade them at the trade deadline just because you don't think they'll re-sign. No, you keep them because you are a winning team. And the fact of the matter is, this team has been a contender, or at least had somewhat of a chance for the better part of a decade. So, sometimes you're going to lose guys in free agency. And I think if you do lose Martin Necas in 2 seasons in free agency, if you're getting the best of him, that's fine. So I'd be okay rolling this all the way, the full 2 years, even if he does walk away. That's just my opinion. Some people disagree with that. But anyway, now that the Necas contract is complete, we turn our eyes to Seth Jarvis, right? So real quick, before I get to the Jarvis talk here, I want to take a break and quickly hear from our sponsors. The first sponsor is BetterHelp. This segment is sponsored by BetterHelp. What are your self-care non-negotiables? Maybe you never skip leg day or therapy day. When your schedule is packed with kids' activities, big work projects, and more, it's easy to let your priorities slip. Even when we know what makes us happy, it's hard to make time for it. But when you feel like you have no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy are more important than ever. You guys have heard me talk about therapy in my experience before. So it is helpful. It's helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. And it isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma either. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day. With BetterHelp, visit betterhelp.com/THPN today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/THPN. All right, let's hear really quick from our next sponsor at DraftKings. Know the beautiful thing about being a sports fan? There's only like 2 days the whole year without a game. 2, with so much happening and so much action, that makes just about every day game day at DraftKings Sportsbook. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. It really couldn't be any easier, any simpler. And if you're new to DraftKings, you got to check this out. New customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5, only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Or in West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Deposit and eligibility restrictions apply. See terms and responsible gaming resources at dkng.com/base. All right. Thanks for bearing with me through that. Get our ad reads out of the way. Let's get back to this discussion. Got just about, 10 minutes left here to talk through the rest of this, the points that I wanted to make. So, yes, now we turn our eyes to Seth Jarvis, right? It was reported probably last week, right? The current negotiation between the team and the Jarvis camp was north of $8 million, right? We knew that. Now, as soon as last night, reports are now that this contract could come closer to the $8 million mark, right? 8 years by $8 million is kind of what we're looking at. We'll see. But what's important to know here, no matter what Jarvis comes in at, the team has the cap space to take care of Jarvis, right? There's been some conflicting reports. I don't know if I want to call them reports or just some talk amongst the fan base, not from sources or reliable sources that that there's not enough cap. And if you look at Puckpedia and you just go in and you just look at the cap space, it doesn't look like that. But if certain things take place, there is plenty of cap, and I'm going to kind of try to spell that out the best I can here. Cap space is going to be right at around 9 million. Maybe a little higher, maybe a little lower, right? Puckpedia currently shows 6.44 million available in cap space. But that is also showing a complement of 15 forwards and 7 defensemen. And Jarvis is not obviously added in because we don't have a contract with Jarvis yet. So there's 4 forwards on the Puckpedia roster, right, that could potentially be sent to the minors. I think this team is going to carry 13 forwards, on the opening night roster. So that means 2 are going to be sent to the minors. And when you start looking at the contracts of the 2 individuals that would be sent to the minors, there's 4 forwards that could potentially be sent to the minors, and that is between Robinson, Nadeau, Jost, and Lemieux. That's kind of your 4 guys. 2 of them are probably going to be with the Canes on opening night. 2 of them will probably go through waivers and be sent to the minors. Now, it's important to remember that Bradley Nadeau does not have to clear waivers. Only Robinson, Jost, and Lemieux would have to clear waivers to go to the minors. But two of those players will be sent down, and 100% of their salary can be buried, right? So there is a number every season that the NHL puts out saying if a player makes less than X amount of dollars, then 100% of their salary can be, or their cap hit can be buried in the minors. If they make more than that salary, right, then whatever the difference between that number and their salary still counts against the cap. So you only get it like a percentage that you're able to bury in the minors. Last season, that amount was, I believe it was I think it was like $1.15 million that you could bury in the minors. That will probably either be the same or maybe a little bit higher this upcoming season, or maybe they've announced it and I haven't seen it. But going off of last season's number, all of these contracts will be 100% buried in the minors. So if you look at it, Eric Robinson will make $950,000. That's his cap hit. Nadeau is, I believe, 918, some change. And then Jost and Lemieux are $775,000 contracts. So if you take 2 of those contracts and bury them in the minors, you're saving yourself $1.5 million to $1.75 million on the cap. You get that back instantly. Then you look at the defense. Puckpedia's defense shows 7 players currently listed with a cap hit. I don't believe that we'll carry 7. I believe we'll carry 6 defensemen coming up this season. If they do carry 7, though, we could still have the money to pay Jarvis everything he deserves. But I don't believe Scott Morrow will be with the big club this year. I think he's going to the minors to play a ton of minutes, get some experience under his belt, and, adjust to the professional game. So his cap hit is, I believe, $917,000. So you would get that back as well. So if you take the 644 or 6.44 million that Puckpedia reports, you add back 1.75 and you add back the 917 from Morrow, that puts you over $9 million, right? If the team decides, hey, we want to carry a 7th defenseman, again, I don't believe it'll be Scott Morrow. I think it'll be somebody like Riley Stillman or Ty Smith. Excuse me. I think that's who we carry as our seventh defenseman. And both of those guys have $775,000 cap hits. So with that, you still have about $8.3 million of cap space before the Jarvis deal, maybe 8.4. So my point is we have enough cap space to pay Jarvis an $8 million contract by 8 years. No problem. And I expect that's what it'll be. I think it'll come in higher than 8. I think the 8.2, 8.3 is probably around where we're at, but it'll be somewhere between 8 and 8.5 for sure. And yeah, we've got the cap to do it. So wanted to cover that real quick. Super excited. Marty Necas is back. I think he's a big piece to this team, especially this year. He, with what we lost in free agency and the question marks surrounding our top 6, if you'd have lost Necas also and you weren't able to bring in a piece in that trade, like a top 6 piece, I think we'd have been hurting pretty bad, to be honest. So, you bring him back, and I think the success of this team this year and where this team can go really depends on guys like Martin Necas, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, being able to take another step. Andrei Svechnikov being able to take another step and be the guy that we know he can be. So, Necas can come in 65, 70 points, 75 points, to be that same guy that he was 2 seasons ago, could do wonders for this team. And if you take that and some other guys do some similar things, there's no reason, I've said it before, there's no reason that this team, as currently constructed, cannot make a deep run. If an Andrei Svechnikov-less, Max Pacioretty-less, Teuvo Teravainen-less team can make it to the Eastern Conference Final 2 seasons ago with Mackenzie McEachern playing on your top line beside Aho in the first round, if that team can make the Eastern Conference Final, so can the one that we're putting on the ice this year. You never know. So I don't buy any of this, the window's closed stuff. No, absolutely not. The window is not closed. It's still wide open. But I've said it before and I'll say it again. Then we'll go through the comments here and then we'll get out of here. This year is a stepping stone to the next window. Not saying the window's closed, but if you tune in for session 53 that we're going to do later on this week, toward the end of the week, we're going to break down basically what it's going to look like next offseason. There's a ton of money. There's a ton of money to go out and get what you want, not necessarily what you need, because everybody that's coming off this roster has a replacement in the organization for the most part, right? Other than maybe some bottom 6 forwards or bottom 3 forwards. But your defensemen, they've got replacements. The Orlovs, the Burns of the world, we know who's going to replace them. So all that money we have to spend to add to this core. So the window's not closed. It's wide open, and it will be for some time. All right, let's see here. Clinton's with us again. He says, I'm Necas is still here. The guy has awesome skill, but needs to work on puck protection. Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely been one of his, the negative sides of his game is his sometimes his turnover, his ability to turn the puck over, and I call it an ability because he seems to be good at it. But man, when he's on, he's on. So yeah, I totally agree with that. Clinton says again, pay the man. Jarvis deserves it. He does deserve it. And he's going to get it. And I think that he'll earn it too. Throughout his contract, he will earn it. Last comment here says, I'm glad Necas is still here. Dude has awesome high-level skill, but needs to work on puck protection and turnovers. Add in some physicality with the goal scoring, and I'm good with it. Yeah, Yeah, we talked about the puck protection and the turn, him turning the puck over. One of the things that people used to complain about Necas was that he fell off in the playoffs, right? He would play well in the regular season and then he would disappear in the playoffs. And I generally agreed with that. But this past year, these past playoffs, I thought was his best playoffs. I thought, thought he was more physical than he had been in past seasons. He's scoring some big time goals, and I believe all of his goals were 5-on-5 in the playoffs. Right, 5-on-5 goals in the playoffs are hard to come by. So the fact that I believe he scored, it was either 4 or 5 this past season, may have been 5. But yeah, they were all 5-on-5 goals, and that's saying something. So if that keeps up and he continues to improve that area of his game, I mean, there's no reason that he can't be one of the, a top 3 forward on any team in the NHL or most teams in the NHL. Hopefully it's Carolina. So, but yeah, that's all I got. I appreciate everybody hanging out that came in. Not a ton of people joining, but enough. So I like to do these little live at lunch things when there's major news that drops. I think we did our last one last month, right before free agency hit, right before the draft, and we were talking about Necas and his potential to be traded. So we'll keep doing these. If the Jarvis contract drops here within the next couple of days, this week or next, we'll do another one. So other than that, you can catch us in session 53 coming up, I believe, maybe Thursday, Friday night. We haven't scheduled it yet. I'll get with AB and we'll decide what night we're going to do that, and we'll give you plenty of notice. So otherwise, thanks again for joining us. Check us out on X, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, at Caniac Sessions. Subscribe, drop us a review, drop us a rating, help us grow, tell somebody about us. We're really trying to grow this YouTube page here. We didn't have that at first. Now we're trying to grow it. So if you could go subscribe and share it on your socials, I'd really appreciate that. And otherwise, also, you can get the audio version wherever you get your podcasts. We have a podcast form as well. That's how we started. That's our roots. So check us out there. Check us out X. If you want to follow me personally on X, you can find me at M_Griff10. And then AB, my co-host, who's not here with me today, but you can follow him personally at AB Caniac Session on X. And yeah, we'll see you guys around. Drop us a comment. Let us know what you think about Marty. And we'll catch you on the flip side. Bye.